Kiki, and we've been doing a series on I Choose Me, talking about self care. So far, we have talked about emotional self care, we've talked about mental health self care, we've talked about physical self care. So, we've talked about a lot of self cares, right? And so, today I want to talk about spiritual self care because that's a vital part of our being as well. So, by now, everybody should know and should be practicing saying in the mirror, I choose me, and understanding that self care is not a luxury, it is a priority. So, when we talk about spiritual self care, we're talking about meditating, praying, getting that quiet time, that alone time to connect. Because why is spiritual self care important? For your inner peace. There's an inner peace that comes when we become settled and when our spirits are quieted. It's a difference between our mental health, was dealing more of our minds, our emotions. They need to be quieted and settled as well. But our spirit has to be in this place of peace in order for when things get chaotic, we can really center and focus ourselves by having that prayer time or having that meditation time. Next, part of our spiritual self care is you've got to get away from the negative. You've got to start believing positive, thinking positive, saying positive things. And sometimes that means that you might have to, I'm going to say it. Are you ready? I'm not ready. You might have to, what's a nice way to say it? You may have to shift. Yeah. And rearrange friendships in your life. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, because, when you're around that negativity all the time, it's going to cause you to be negative. Seriously, even on your job, just look at when you are around negative people, how eventually you start speaking negatively as well. Because it's very easy to fall into that pattern versus seeing the positive. And so for your spiritual self-care, sometimes you've got to look for that positive. You know what they say, like, look for that silver lining? Yeah, sometimes you have to look for that in order for you to keep that inner peace. Okay? Perfect example is, I remember I was taking this class, and one of the things that the lady talked about was when you're driving on the street. And that's the only time that my blood pressure used to go up. Notice what I said, used to go up. Because I'd be like, what are you doing? And I would be like, now mind you, I start my morning in prayer. I'm playing some really, inspiring music and ready to face my day. But as soon as I get in this traffic, in this city, I'm done. So this lady said, start to think positive and start to make up stories. And so I remember one time I was driving, and this is what really started to help me to stop spewing out some negativity when I'm driving. And I said, that person has some place to go in a hurry. And although they are not following the rules and regulations that they should in order to get to their destination, that's okay. They're trying to get to their destination, and I'm going to let them. And I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it really did work for me. So every person that did something not so smart, I just went ahead and just said, I've got a destination to get to. They're not making a smart choice of how to get there, but I'm going to let them go ahead. You know what I mean? So that's what I did. So you've got to get to that place where you're choosing the positive, not the negative. So next, you need to connect with a spiritual community. However that looks like for you, but you need that connection because those who are like-minded in their spirituality, in their religion, in their quest for seeking, that's going to really inspire you and help you to stay focused and stay grounded, so that you aren't all over the place, So you want to make sure that you get with a spiritual community that can even support you. You know, maybe you've chosen a new spiritual path and you want to learn more. Well, you need to connect with the community. We were not meant to do life alone. We are hardwired for connection. So find a spiritual community and connect. Next, you want to make sure, and I know some of my people out there are like, Key, I ain't doing that. I ain't going outside. But it really is a wonderful, wonderful place of balance and just quiet. When you just take a walk in nature. You know, when I take my dog, have I introduced my dog to you guys yet? I will next episode. Her name is Cupcake. And when I take Cupcake on walks, we walk around the lake. Sometimes we'll walk out to the park. And I just breathe in and breathe out, and just look at the things around me. Look at the ducks. Look at the lake. You know, and I especially am fascinated when I look at the ducks or even birds because they don't have a care in the world. Do you realize they do not have a care in the world? And when I think about, there's a scripture in the Bible, and it says, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they are clothed, and they don't toil," meaning that they don't have to work to get their petals. And consider the animals, birds, that they're fed all the time. So why are we so worried and stressed all the time about how we're going to get taken care of? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So sometimes when we look in nature, you know, and one thing that happened to me, I'll never forget. When I was getting ready to go up to FSU, and I needed to take the ACT, and I'm a terrible test taker. And I remember studying, and I got a tutor, and you know, but I ran out of time on the test, and I was so upset. And all of a sudden, this homeless man walked by me. I was waiting on my parents to come pick me up, and I was crying and upset. And this homeless man walked by. And he had this huge bag of cornflakes. Huge. And he was feeding the birds. And just from just being in that place and seeing how nature was taken care of, it quieted my spirit and gave me that peace that, you know what, Key? It's going to be okay. Not only did I get the score I needed to get into FSU, I exceeded the score I needed to get into FSU. But I needed to just take that moment to look at outside of me to get that peace. So last but not least, I'm going to talk about one that's not popular, but it really is essential, and it is practice forgiveness. Yeah, I know. But listen, and I'm sure you've heard this too. Practicing forgiveness is about you. It is not about the other person. It really isn't. Because when you think about it, the person who hurt you, they're going on with their life. They ain't think about you. Honestly, and let's think about this, right? They're going on with their life, but you're angry and you're upset, and your anger and you being upset is not affecting them in any way, shape, or form. But it's just making you upset, and it's causing you to be sick or ulcers or headaches or whatever every time you see that person. You got to learn to just forgive. Let it go. And trust me, I know some things are a lot more traumatic than others. I've had some childhood trauma, and I've had to forgive that person for that trauma, for that egregious behavior that they committed against me. But I didn't do it because of them. And I want you to understand, forgiveness doesn't mean that that person's off the hook. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what they did was right. Because sometimes we get in our mind that if I forgive them, it says that what you did to me was right. That's not it. Forgiveness is for me to release my anger, release my rage, my bitterness, not for that other person. And here's another one that's really difficult for us to do sometimes. Forgive yourself. You know, sometimes we hold ourselves to a standard that our families aren't holding us to. God or your higher power is not holding you to. Nobody is holding you to. But yet, here it is, you won't forgive yourself. You keep blaming yourself and you're walking in this guilt. That's not inner peace. And that's not what you were made for. It's not for you. So, we've got to practice spiritual self-care. Pray, meditate. Do it in the morning if you can. Start your day off right. You got to choose the positive. Get rid of the negative. Start seeing things in a different light. Choose. You have to choose it. It's not going to come. Connect with a spiritual community. It's good to have that support. And then you definitely, when you get a chance, spend time in nature. Go to a beach. Go to a park. Just sit down and listen to the birds. Feed some ducks. Get out there. Do it. And last but not least, practice forgiveness of others. And more importantly, practice forgiveness of yourself. When you start doing these things, you will start to find more and more inner peace. So choose you today and practice your spiritual self-care. Love you guys so much. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week.